Hello! Today we are going to twine around vessels, mostly for wine, as well as for other liquids we make use of in our everyday life. What to do it for? Firstly, for the sake of interior, to create some special style. Besides, there is a practical purpose for making demijohns like this as well. First of all, to keep glass bottles from breaking. The woven clothes we make for our vessels will help to keep them alive for longer, even though glass is breakable material. And there is one more point of practical use. They recommend keeping wine in non-transparent vessels. Vessels can be quite different, so it is the shape of a vessel the shape of a demijohn depends on. So mostly we follow the shape of a vessel itself. But at the same time we can vary the shape. For example, here is an article we are still going to make a holder for. It is not finished yet, not varnished. But it used to be a regular prolonged bottle from juice. In order to shape it like this, I've used a clay bowl at the bottom and then passed on to twining around the very bottle. What do I mean? I was experimenting with the shape of a bottle. So you don't have to depend on the shape of your glass bottle and follow it necessarily. You can improve it as well. Where your fantasy and creativity is especially useful is in making holders. When you think of the article you are going to weave, you first of all think of the type of a holder for this article and type of a pattern you are going to apply. As well, you have to decide what kind of edges you are going to emphasize this pattern with. So one has to think of the type of decorative edges, basic pattern inside and shape of a holder. And a cork, of course, as a part of our composition. Let me add a couple of introductory words concerning holders. Holders can be either horizontal or vertical. And besides, there are different possible ways of making them. Here is an example of a horizontal holder made in the technique of regular twining round. And here is an example of a vertical holder made in the technique of twining round as well. There is also another variety of a vertical holder, a twisted one. And besides, one can make use of one's fantasy and weave a holder with a pattern. But we'll come back to this topic later. So far, let's discuss what stages demijohn making consists of. First of all, we weave a bottom, pass on to the walls, make edges, the pattern itself, think of a type of holders. Don't forget to leave space where to fix the holders. In the very end, we either weave a cap or make a cork. So, the first stage is making a bottom. So we have chosen the model. Today we are twining around such an exotic bottle. There is no use in experimenting with the bottom because it is not going to be seen anywhere, so I have made the simplest one, the simplest round bottom. 12 tubes of the base. I have lengthened them right away, so I woven the bottom of required size on these double tubes. The size is sufficient. Now let's turn it to continue weaving in the same direction. I don't make any sharp transitions for demijohns. I just leave the tubes and pass on to weaving the walls. So I weave 3-4 rows up to a decorative edge. Then we weave a decorative edge and the pattern itself. So our current goal is to weave 3-4 rows with the moistened tubes prepared beforehand. The tips are dry for lengthening, while the tubes themselves are wet. So we weave 3 or 4 rows in the technique of regular rope. I'm not dwelling on the details of round bottom making or 2-tube rope weaving because we have detailed tutorials on our site. There are tutorials on a few varieties of round bottom, 2-tube rope, direct and opposite rope. Today we are just discussing the stages of weaving. So I have woven 5 rows in the technique of regular rope. Now we are going to weave a decorative edge. As a decorative edge, one can use a kind of edging like this, or a regular 3 or 4 tube rope. In my case, the bottle is not big and I have used crosses as a pattern, so I decided to separate the crosses with a 4-tube rope. For this purpose, I replace 2 working tubes for the lighter ones. Very carefully for a joint to be unseen. And add 2 tubes more and weave a 4-tube rope. We do have a special tutorial on decorative edges, or you can watch it here. We lead a working tube in front of 3 tubes and place it behind the 4th one. Lead in front of 3 tubes, behind the 4th one. In front of 3 behind the 4th one, and continue this way up to the end. As a result, we are getting such a volumetric rope to separate regular weaving from the pattern we are going to weave later. Don't save the tubes, lengthen the tubes only behind the poles of the base. Not here, but right where we lead a working tube behind the pole. We have lengthened the tube, let's continue. It is important to finish neatly. Here we have reached the point where we used to start. Leave the first tube unengaged. Take the following one and we have to hide it here. Very carefully because there was a joint here. Don't let the network unweave. Try working very neatly. Hide the next one here. Pull tight as well to keep from unweaving. And the last one, lead inside here. This way we tuck all the 4 tubes in neatly. This way we have finished the 4-tube rope very neatly. Then we pass on to the pattern crosses. We do have a tutorial on how to weave crosses. There will appear an active link on your screen right now. You may click the link and watch the tutorial on the pattern crosses. So we are going to weave in the technique of crosses somewhere up to this level, then make another decorative edge, and after everything is finished, we are going to finish twining around the bottom.